Hi there, and welcome to the Echo Solar Home Tour. My name's Andrew Mills, and today we're going to be talking about the Montgomery Passive House with secondary suite located in Calgary. With me today is Frank Crawford, who's the designer, builder, and owner of the home. Welcome to the Echo Solar Home Tour, Frank.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for having me.
Great. Your home's an example of a near net zero energy home that's built to the International Passive House standard. It also has a solar photovoltaic system and rainwater harvesting to water the permaculture perennial food forest and annual garden beds. Frank, give me a bit of background on why you chose to build your home like this. What were the main things you were trying to accomplish?
Okay. So we really started with working on our goals for the property. So what were our goals for the home and how do they relate to our life goals? Because one should kind of flow into the other. So we wanted an energy efficient, comfortable and resilient home with low energy bills, little maintenance, and we wanted that secondary suite in the basement to provide some stable income for us. And then we ended up picking the Passive House standard because after looking at a bunch of them, that was really the only building standard we could find that provided a predictable low energy use and thus some utility cost savings, while at the same time ensuring that we were going to have a comfortable and quiet home with excellent indoor air quality and no drafts or cold spots.
Can you tell me a little bit about the Passive House standard?
Yes, I can. So the Passive House standard is a performance-based energy building standard. It has strict performance criteria. So it limits the amount of space heating you can use and space heating and cooling you can use for the house to 15 kilowatt hours per meter squared per year. And for comparison, the Canadian average is about 150 kilowatt hours. Then it limits the total energy use you can use for the house to 120 kilowatt hours per meter squared, which is kind of the inside area of the house per year. And that includes everything: hot water, space heating, cooling, fans, lighting, appliances, plug loads, everything. Then it has an air tightness requirement of zero 0.6 or less air changes per hour, both positive and negative. And right now, Alberta code is somewhere around 3.2. So again, a big improvement. It also has built-in comfort criteria. So it has the ASHRAE criteria to make sure that there's no cold surfaces anywhere on the house that could have condensation or mold problems. And then finally, it limits the amount of overheating in the summer, which they define as over 25 degrees. And we say now that that should be less than 5%, or if you do have some mechanical heating, or zero if you don't. So to get to all those performance metrics, you need basically to follow five main principles. So it's insulation, air tightness, thermal bridge free, correctly placed, sized, and shaded windows and doors, and then finally a mechanical ventilation system to provide you fresh air. So you get all five of those principles, you put them together, and then you put it into an energy model, and then you can get certified. So there's a few levels of certification. The classic one is those performance metrics that we just talked about. Then they have what's called Passive House Plus, which just means you stick some renewable energy on the house. And this basically is the same as net zero. And then if you stick even more renewables on the house, you get to what's called Passive House Premium, which is what also could be called net positive over a year. And then,
Sure, go ahead.
oh, two more things. So there's also the EnerFit retrofit program. So that's for existing houses that you want to renovate to a same standard. And in that one, they reduce the space heating demand down to 30 kilowatts instead of the 15. And then there's a PHI low energy building, which I think they originally came up for just if you kind of a consolation prize if you didn't quite make the classic. But what we're finding is that 30 kilowatt hours per meter squared is kind of the most cost effective way to do things in our cold climate.
Interesting. What's the EnerGuide rating, or do you have historical energy use? Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
On your home.
Yeah, so I haven't paid for an actual EnerGuide rating, but we do have 3 years of actual energy consumption data from living in the house, and it's for both the upstairs and the basement, so the secondary suites, total energy of the house. So the PHPP, which is the energy model from Passive House, it estimated that we would consume 19.6 megawatt hours per year, and our actual from the 3 years is 20.6 megawatts. So that's some pretty close correlation in my books. And again, for comparison, if I built my house to code minimum, I'd be using 58.3 megawatts, and the average of all houses in Alberta is kind of 40 megawatts. So we are basically acting like a duplex because we have 6 people living here and 2 families. So we're using significantly less than a single house. And then you subtract off the solar PV array, which is a 7.2 kilowatt array, and it produces 8.2 megawatts per year. So do the math on that, and we get about 44 gigajoules of energy used per year, which would roughly translate to 44 EnerGuide rating.
Interesting.
So I guess the next one in regards to energy is our blower door test. So we did do 2 blower door tests on the house. We did one when the vapor barrier and air barrier were accessible, and we got 0.5 air changes per hour. And then when we did a second blower door test once the drywall was complete, and that blower door test came back at 0.28.
That's pretty outstanding. What would you say is the standout feature of your home?
Well, from the north side, which is the street side, we actually went to a little bit of effort to make sure that we didn't really stand out. We wanted to blend in with the community. So it really is just a kind of a rectangular box. The red roof's a bit more of a standout. But I guess what does stand out is our permaculture perennial food forest in the front is definitely a lot different than your standard monocrop grass front lawn. Going to the south side, which is our backyard, you can definitely see the increased area of glass, which allows the sun's heat to heat us in the winter. And that 7.2 kilowatt solar array is a pretty good standout feature.
You know, when we build energy efficient homes, we make a series of choices, energy efficiency choices. What would you say were the main choices you had to make as far as the energy efficiency in your home?
So one of the advantages of Passive House is there isn't really a choice as an either or choice. What it is it's kind of an iterative process of making some decisions, doing some preliminary modeling, seeing where that preliminary model spits out your numbers, because it's a pass fail versus the criteria, and then just optimizing as best you can. One of the biggest ways to or the biggest choice you do have to make is start with a simple rectangular compact shape. And then try to stick it on a lot that has excellent solar exposure, not much shading, and then try to have the long axis of your house facing south, so you can gather all that free heat and photovoltaics. And then your building envelope comes first, so that's where you spend your money, making sure you have a good building envelope that gives you comfort and reduced demand, and then you can add in your mechanicals afterwards. So here's an example of some of those choices, or some of those examples of how we apply those 5 principles. So here's the 8 inches of insulation below the slab. So code doesn't require you to put any insulation below the slab, so that would be a thermal bridge. So let's get through the thermal bridging of below the slab, and you can also see the poly vapor barrier that is underneath the slab that will then be tied into the wall vapor barrier once the concrete foundation walls are poured. Going up a bit higher, here is the SIGA vapor barrier that we actually use as an air barrier as well. And it's going, you can see it's done in what's called balloon framing, where the second floor rim joist actually goes in front of that vapor barrier. Which
That's
is a little
really interesting. I haven't seen balloon framing for a long time. My 1949 house is a balloon frame, but nowadays they don't use that. Why would you use balloon framing? I'm just curious.
So I guess the main reason I did balloon framing is the continuity of the air and vapor barrier detail at that rim joist is much simpler. You just put a piece of membrane behind it and screw your rim joist on. But also I could only do it because my floor to floor heights weren't very large, so I could get away with kind of 16-inch or 16-foot 2x4s, and I didn't have to go to too much tall wall, which has additional structural implications. But yeah, it just was simpler.
Interesting.
Here's a detail of the outside. So it shows you the exterior weather-resistant membrane, again from SIGA, and how it gets wrapped and sealed with all the tapes. And it also shows you 2 inches of some foam that I wrapped around my window openings to reduce that thermal bridge at the window openings. Here's some more exterior wall photos. So one of them is the basement. So this is 8 inches of quick therm EPS insulation on the outside of the concrete foundation wall, and that 2 inches of insulation around the window. And that's a type of continuous exterior insulation. So it wraps all the way around on the outside of the structure. And then the other photo shows the 6 inches of rock wool exterior insulation that then has a 2x4 as a rain screen, and then my hardy plank siding on top of it. So once you've kind of made your airtight, super insulated, thermal bridge free thermos, you can't really breathe through the cracks in the walls anymore, which is really what we're doing now in the summer if our furnace fan is off, because that furnace fan is really the only fresh air into the house. So in a passive house, you need what's called mechanical ventilation, and it is most often done through HRV or an ERV in my case. This is a picture of our ERV. It's a little bit dirty or a little bit busy, because most mechanical rooms in passive houses end up also becoming storage rooms, because the mechanical system itself is much smaller. So this ERV scavenges both the heat and the moisture off of the exhaust air that would otherwise just be leaving the house.
So energy recovery ventilator, ERV, and then those tubes that you see coming out of the output of the RV, those are going to each of the rooms in the house. Is that what's happening?
Yep. Yeah. So the larger gray box is the actual unit, and then there's what's called a manifold and a silencer just above that, and then the white pipes come out. This is a Zender unit. Other units have this type where it's called a home run. So yes, it's all 3-inch pipes, which can be fit into a 2x4 wall and bend around corners really easily. But yeah, you have a whole bunch, an octopus of small pipes going to your various supply diffusers in your living rooms and bedrooms, and then your exhaust diffusers are in your kitchens and your bathrooms, and they come back to the machine.
So these are this is the ventilation that you get in your home. You don't actually have a furnace circulating air. This is the only air circulation you have.
Yeah, this runs 24/7, and it provides your balanced, filtered, fresh air into the house.
Interesting.
And
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is our Navion on-demand hot water heater. So it's a tankless unit that provides hot water both for the house, and it has a hydronic coil that does warm the HRV after the core a little bit.
Interesting. Now, another important area for savings is in water costs. Any features in your home to save on water costs?
Yeah, so we do have in this photo in the corner, you can see part of the 4,000 liters of rainwater storage that we have on site. So in the summer, we only use rainwater to water all of our plants, so our water consumption doesn't go up in the summer. And because of that, the 6 people living in the house full time, we use between 8 and 19 meters cube of water a month, which is about half the Alberta average. And then actually since COVID, we've dropped down to kind of 6 to 13 cubes per month, probably because since we're all staying at home, we probably don't need to shower all that often. So what we found is really it's more based on occupant behavior than technology. Code actually in this case is actually pretty good. The toilets are the 6 liter per max, or 6 liter per flush max, which is code allows, and we have low flow fixtures on the shower heads and the faucets. So between all those things, the code and technology is pretty good at minimizing water, but it's really more how people use it and how long they have showers and other things that might change how much your water bill is. And what we've noticed is that even though we vary like almost 100% between 8 and 19 cubes per month, the water bill is pretty much always about $100. The way the city of Calgary bills us for water, they really don't provide much of an incentive to conserve water. But you should still do it, and the rainwater harvesting is kind of the biggest way we do it.
Yeah, that seems to be unique to Calgary, the way they do their water bills. Are there any other features of your home that you want to feature, such as permaculture or electric car or any other unique items? What else have you got on the go?
Yeah, so I would like to talk about kind of our perennial food forest. So at the front, instead of having a grass monoculture, we've planted a whole bunch of perennial plants. So basically, that means plants that grow back each year. Obviously, those sunflowers, we plant in some annuals in between, but we have lots of berries, raspberries, strawberries,
Hmm,
Nanking cherries, Evans cherries, and we have some sorrel. So yeah, my kids love in the summer going out every morning and just kind of foraging for their food or for berries to put on top of their on their cereal. We also have a little bit of veggies, and we have just lots of things that grow back every year. So you plant it once, and then you just keep harvesting more and more every year.
interesting.
Yeah, and then at the south side of the house, we've put in three raised garden beds, so about 4x8 garden beds. And this is where we put in our annual food crops. So we got beets and carrots and peas and scarlet runner beans and some potatoes and kales and lettuces. So yeah, we're really trying to grow an increasing number or increasing amount of our of food on site. And that combined with the Passive House high performance building shell that really won't freeze for a long time, even if it has no power.
Hmm,
We're helping to kind of build the resilience of our house. We're not quite there being self-sufficient, but we're on our way. We can kind of call it our little urban homestead.
hmm,
The other way we've added resilience is with the secondary suite in the basement that provides a fairly stable income that we can kind of count on, so that we don't have to work as much. And right now we have two kids, and we'd much prefer to stay at home and play with the kids than to be running off to work full time every day. So all of these things help us stay home with the kids.
hmm.
We only have one car. It's a Prius V hybrid, um, and then we also have a number of pedal and e-bikes to get us around. And we try to kind of bike and walk as much as we can, and generally try to have the car just sit there.
Nice.
I guess the other way, or the other thing that we think is that resilience really comes from a community. It's the community supplements or greatly increases the resilience of a person. So we have a little free library and a bench there for our kind of the people in the neighborhood to come and sit and read and kind of enjoy the perennial food forest. And then we're also slowly trying to expand that food forest into our neighbors, and converting some of their lawns into food producing areas. Yeah, and I guess the other biggest thing is the house is now kind of my business card for my energy efficiency consulting services that I offer to people to help them improve their energy efficiency.
Excellent. Now, what would you say is the most challenging aspect of building your energy efficient home? What challenged you?
So I started building, like designing in 2014, and was building in 2015, 2016. So at the time, finding high performance materials and tradespeople was a bit of a challenge. I had to do most of the looking myself and importing stuff from Ireland or even from Vancouver or BC. There wasn't much in Calgary. Fortunately, now 6 years later, the materials are all readily available. There's North American high performance products in just about everything now. So you don't have to be importing from overseas and shipping things in containers. There's still not a ton of high performance builders, but there is definitely a strong core of them. I'm friends and know most of them in Calgary and Alberta, but they are definitely available, and it is, I think, definitely easier now than it was 5, 6 years ago.
That's great. Great news. What were the key costs in building your energy efficient home?
Yeah, so here are some of the costs. So again, we moved in 2016. We have a total of 2,900 square feet developed. So above grade, you take off the 1,150 square foot secondary suite. So the total cost was, well, the hard cost was $450,000, excluding land. And then I put on $125,000 for the own labor because I acted as my own general. My dad was with me pretty much 6 to 8 months helping on site as well. So I put in that extra amount for basically being able to hire someone as a general contractor, their profit and overhead. So I say that the house cost $575,000 to build, which if you put that to a square footage price is $340 per square foot if you just count above grade, or $200 a square foot if you count the developed basement secondary suite. So my specific heating demand was just basically right on the edge of the Passive House Classic. We're not certified, we're just built to the standard. There's my blower door test again, and there's kind of the stats on the walls. But yeah, no, the prices that I built it at 5 years ago, I think are well within the range of a custom one-off code minimum house in Calgary.
Hmm.
So it really
Interesting.
doesn't have to cost more.
Sure. Do you have any examples of cost savings that you've come up with as a result of the way the home was built?
Yeah, so with Passive House, you do get the predictable energy savings, which do result in utility bill savings. So we're saving anywhere between $100 and $150 a month versus what would be a code minimum house. That number does change, and it's actually unfortunately been going down a little bit recently as the kind of fixed utility or fixed transmission costs from the various utilities go up. We have a gas line to the house right now, providing us that hot water. So sometime in the future, we will convert to all electric using heat pump technology, which now works in our cold climate, didn't 4 or 5 years ago. And dropping that gas line and its 400 and change fixed annual fee will help us increase those utility savings. And hopefully the solar club, which we're part of as part of our PV when we sell the excess in the summer, will continue to go up. I think went up from 22 cents to 23 cents this year. So yeah, the savings are real.
Interesting. Is there anything else you would have done differently when building your home?
Yeah, there's always being one of the first, you always learn some things the hard way. So this is a very nice picture, took basically the occupancy of our main floor kitchen. So it's nice and open and bright. And it does show the kind of 2-inch concrete topping slab that we poured on the main floor to give us some thermal mass. Unfortunately, when I was pouring this concrete, I didn't open my windows, and the vapor barrier and air barrier were complete. And concrete doesn't dry, but in the initial curing process, there is some evaporation of the water that does have to occur. So because I was so airtight, that initial curing of the concrete was slowed down a bit. The finisher had to finish it a bit more than they would normally. So I unfortunately have a bit of what's called spalling, or little bits of flaking of the top surface. So that very nice concrete surface isn't so nice anymore. So yeah, so if you're pouring a concrete slab and your vapor barrier is complete, make sure you open your windows and open your doors to get some airflow, so you don't so it stays nice for an extended period of time.
Right, right.
Another lesson learned is officially Passive House is actually 10% or under overheating. That 10% works fine in Germany and other less sunny climates. Once you move it to Alberta's very sunny climate, 10% is too much. I designed to 8%, which I thought was low enough below 10, but what we found is that it's not. I'm getting too much overheating in the summer, or in the shoulder seasons, because sometimes in, say, September, it could be -5 and you want the heat. It could also be +20 and then you don't want the heat. Right. So what I've done to reduce my overheating is, you can see this picture, there's some external shade fabric screens that I've built, and I just put them up in like July, and then I generally take them off in August, and they block about 85 or 95% of the sun's heat from coming through the windows. So that has dropped my overheating down to about 4%, which is, yeah, kind of under that 5%, which we say is what's more applicable in our climate. And then I guess the other thing I've learned is that passive houses are very quiet. Part of the air tightness and the additional insulation and the excellent windows is you really don't hear the outside traffic, which is always a good thing. We have a train that's kind of 2 blocks away from the house. We don't hear the train. That's nice. But it does mean that any internal sounds are amplified. We don't have a furnace, so there's no furnace fan going. You can see in the corner, here's a 400-watt heater, that little white square. That's $100, 400 watts, and that heats the whole bedroom. So, and it does it silently. So the internal sound becomes a lot more prevalent. So I did take some steps to reduce the sound transfer between walls within my suite. And I thought I took enough steps for sound transfer between my suite and the basement suite. But what I forgot is I didn't acoustically isolate using resilient strips the drywall in the basement, or I didn't use 2 layers of drywall with acoustic isolator between it. So there is a bit more sound transfer, basically footfalls, me going down to the basement suite than I would have liked. But it's still a very quiet house. That's
Interesting. I'm just
comfortable.
looking at the picture here. So you've got that square heater, that's electrical heater. Right
Yep.
above that, that's a vent in the ceiling. Is that your ERV event?
Yep. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's the air
So
source.
yeah, that's the air source. The air comes out of that maybe at 20, 21 degrees after it's gone through the ERV and after it's been heated a bit by the hot water tank. So by then having the electric heater right there, then the airflow will naturally move that electric heat all the way through the house, because remember that you're supplying in your bedrooms, you're exhausting from your kitchens and bathrooms. So there's always a slight flow of air. So it's a very effective way to heat the house.
Nice, very nice.
Yeah.
What aspect of your home would you think was the most satisfying?
Um, I think the most satisfying is that we had a very long discussion about the layout of the main floor, and we went with a very open floor plan. This is our layout. It's a little busy, but basically there are no hallways in our main floor, and there's an open loft above. So you walk in and you basically see the whole house. The bedrooms all open directly into the open kitchen, living room, dining room. So it's very open. It saves you space by not having hallways. And fortunately, it's because we thought about it so much. It's perfectly meeting our family's needs right now. Um, we have our 2 kind of young children, 2 boys. When they get older, and we don't want to be able to see them and hear them everywhere, then we've kind of roughed in the open loft space to build another bedroom and another bathroom, so we can kind of kick them upstairs, or they can have the 2 main floor bedrooms, and we'll move upstairs. But yeah, we very much like that. We're also very happy that the passive house system did actually work. Again, being one of the first ones, I wasn't totally, I didn't totally believe that it would work. But yeah, the energy model does. It's predictable. It's been predictable for 30 years. It's been running. So you still have to enter your data correctly and be careful, but you can trust that the results will actually occur.
Interesting. Is there a particular part of your home that you like the best?
I think what I like the best about it is the comfort. So this is a 10-foot by 5-foot window. It's also the bench seating for our kitchen dining table. And yeah, because of the passive house windows and all the principles and air tightness, it's perfectly comfortable. This picture was taken when it's minus 20 degrees outside. It's sunny, so it's perfectly warm, and it's kind of the warmest, nicest seat in the house. So yeah, we really like the comfort and the quiet.
Nice, very nice. Well, thank you very much for going through that with me today, Frank. Is there anyone you'd like to thank that helped you design or construct the home?
Yeah, I definitely like to thank my wife. She did a lot of the design with me, and the discussions and the goal setting, and she was on site as much as she could, helping build the house as well. Also, having our young son limited her amount of work on site, but she was there as much as she could. And my father, who was here for about 8 months straight with me every day, hitting the hammers and cutting the foam. So without them, it would have been significantly more difficult.
Mm.
And then also, I'd like to thank the kind of the passive house community at large. Again, being one of the first ones, they helped me figure out the tricks and the kinks. And when I had questions, they were very helpful in answering me. The passive house community is excellent at helping people so you don't have to learn, you don't have to make the same mistakes over and over again. You can learn from other people's mistakes by hiring them and using them. So as part of that, I helped found, and now I'm the education committee lead for Passive House Alberta. And that's how I kind of give back to the community and help other people be more comfortable.
Well, great. Thank you, Frank. Thanks for joining me today and sharing pictures of your home. I'm looking forward to being able to see your home in person on the tour. I also want to thank our Echo Solar Home Tour sponsors. Our sponsors offer many interesting services to help you build an energy efficient home, and we encourage you, the viewer, to visit them. Please visit our website to find links to all of our sponsors. To find more about our tour homes, tour dates, and our sponsors, please go to our website at www.ecosolar.ca, where we will update and post information as it comes available. We'll see you on the tour. Thanks very much for watching.
Thank you.